Mega Man 2 on Game Boy, while not up to snuff with the level of quality as the first Game Boy game, and certainly not in line with the console counterparts, I still think has its own place as being a charming, unique experience in its own right. The sprites in this game, while a little small and dopey, honestly are kinda cute. The custom music in a lot of the stages in that game, although they weren't composed that well, it at least showed that the composers of the game were trying their best to make this game a memorable experience, even though they kind of failed admittedly, or I guess they succeeded, depending on how you think about it. The difficulty was also severely downplayed compared to the NES games and even the last Game Boy game. However, I still think that it's an experience worth playing through. Mega Man 3, on the other hand, I've criticized a lot throughout the past two videos, and honestly, I have good reason for it. I think my opinions for this game are like the exact opposite as Mega Man 2 for Game Boy. The visual fidelity of this game is right up to snuff with the console counterparts and the first Game Boy game, and honestly I think that compared to the NES, it exceeds in some regards. I also think that the music, while not too many original tracks, is a pretty good listen, and I think that the sound font really does the music justice. As for the difficulty, well, I said that Mega Man 2 for Game Boy was probably the easiest game in the classic Mega Man series. Yeah, I find this game, and no joke, the hardest game in the Mega Man Classic series. Yeah, it's that brutal at times, and I want to show that off and just explain why I think that although this game is still worth a playthrough for its positive qualities, this is definitely one of the most brutal and unforgiving Mega Man games, especially around the halfway point. Whew. Alright. I have been dreading this playthrough. Compared to the last two games, this is going to be another matter entirely. I was not kidding in that intro when I said this is the most brutal Mega Man game in the series. People say something like, oh, Mega Man and Bass is bad? No. Oh no. Alright, let's get started. So right away we have the remaining 4 Robot Masters that we didn't fight in Mega Man 2 for Game Boy. I guess we'll start things off. Now, I'm gonna admit something. Something that makes this game harder than the others is kind of a personal challenge that I put on myself. That is to fight the bosses without using E-Tanks, really just playing the game without using E-Tanks, and fighting the bosses without weaknesses, with some exceptions. The only exception I would include is, like, the final boss, but, like, you kind of need that. It's kind of only weak to one weapon, and you actually need that, so kind of that's just like a typical Mega Man thing. Yeah, we're off to a good start. Now a lot of these deaths will be my fault. I'm not gonna, I won't deny that a lot of touch damage and deaths are gonna be because I am just careless, and I just want to get through this game as quickly as possible. You'll notice a lot of enemies, they're in really bullshit places. By the way, that's very obnoxious. You have to, like, stop here if you want to even have a remote chance at, like, being able to plan that jump properly to get on right at the edge. Well, anyway, the first thing you'll notice is that this game looks pretty damn good. Yeah, like, again, I'd say better than Mega Man 3 did on the console games. Like, wow, there's a surprising amount of detail, with, you know, the exception being that it's not in color. I wonder what it would look like with color, but regardless, this is actually a very solid design for the background and the foreground. Really just very good stuff all around. You'll notice that this game also is prone to a lot of lag. By the way, you can see in this game we now have the charge ability, as well as the sliding ability, as we had before. And it looks almost exactly like it did in Mega Man 4, which, honestly, that's... I'm not gonna say it's kind of impressive, because, like, really it's just, like, the graphics. But, in all honesty, I do appreciate these little details. You can see a lot of the stage hazards are similar to in Sparkman's stage in the console games. So, they put a surprisingly obnoxious amount of these garbage dispenser things. A lot of times you can just go over, because once one of the blocks go down on the ground, you can shoot... You can either shoot that, or, like, jump over it, because they don't stack up like they do in the NES games. Once one block goes down, that's it. Oh, yeah, by the way, here is a completely cheap trick the game does. You see, that's another one of these pipes. You think either the garbage or one of those spark enemies will come out. Well, guess what? Neither of them do. It's a useless pipe. Was that an accident? Especially because this is a bottomless pit right here. It's like, you'd probably be stressing out trying to avoid whatever's going to come out here, but it never comes out. That just seems like a cheap trick, really. Anyway, you'll notice the surprising amount of hits that a lot of enemies take. Some of them are the same as the console games. I don't really have much to complain about there. I will say they could have been... the hit amount could have been lowered a bit, considering this game only lets you fire so fast, even with, like, mashing as fast as you can. But some enemies, they actually have a lot more hits they need to take. Like those Mets on the, I don't know what you call it, the jackhammers, like the construction equipment. They took 7 hits compared to their console counterparts' 3 hits. That is a little ridiculous to me. Anyway, we have Sparkman here. Charge shots in this game, especially if you're not going to fight the bosses with weaknesses, are a must. You need to absolutely make sure you get all the charge shots in as fast as you can. There we go. See, Sparkman wasn't too bad. He does trap you in a corner, and really, I think he just decides to shoot stuff a little more commonly than he does in the console games, but I could be wrong on that one. Anyway, so Spark Shock, probably one of the dumbest weapons in Mega Man history. Yeah, worse than Top Spin. It doesn't, like, kill anything except for the boss it's weak to. I guess I might as well mention that, like... Okay, so... Snake Man's weakness in the original was Needle Man, but Needle Man's not here. I think it's Spark Man. No, wait. Yeah, it's Sparkman. So Shadow goes to Spark. Spark goes to Snake. Snake goes to Gemini. Gemini goes to Shadow. I think that's how it works. Here we go with Gemini Man's stage. I think this is one of the most brutal stages in the game. I did say that it gets worse around the halfway point, and I still stand by that, but man, the first half is also no slouch either. Like, God. I want to point out, Mega Man 4 for Game Boy also has some problems around, like the post-halfway point, but it's not quite the same as this game. This game will kick you down, will kick you when you're down, and have no mercy. See, this guy now takes 7 hits. I mean, the charge shot, it's not quite as bad, but... Ugh. I don't see why. I mean, maybe 3 hits is a little... not that much, but... I don't know, 5 hits? 7 hits just seems a little excessive. Oh, I almost slid right into the spikes. Nice. Alright, so these things, they, when you charge shot, just like, because you didn't have this in Mega Man 3, so I guess they made it work differently. When you shoot a charge shot through these guys, it destroys the egg, but it also doesn't destroy the guys because they don't actually appear. So they don't drop anything. So honestly, it's pick your poison. Either you have to slowly deal with these guys, or you don't get any health pickups or anything. And in a game like this, I think I don't mind taking it slow sometimes just to get the health pickups. I am truly being serious about like how much I'm calling this game brutal and obnoxious, and like, you know, the halfway point of the level is at the beginning of this room. So not only do you have to deal with these guys slowly every time you die but don't quite make it to the boss, but this isn't even nearly the halfway point of the level. This is just where the checkpoint is. The next checkpoint is right before the boss. It's funny how something like Super Mario Land, despite, you know, not quite being the same as the console game, it felt very lenient at times. I'm gonna just plow through this guy. Thank you. I don't know, it had a lot of checkpoints to it, and nothing about it felt overly brutal, but I don't know. The Mega Man games, they're already difficult games, but this game in particular just goes above and beyond, just kicking you when you're down. Also because your fire rate is abysmal. Like, now, you might not even be able to shoot these guys 3 times before they smack you in the face. Luckily there's a charge shot, but like, it just seems so, like, poorly thought out, honestly. Again, it's like Mega Man 2 for Game Boy, except in the opposite direction. It's too brutal. Instead of the game being a little too easy. Which, honestly, I'd prefer a game being a little too easy. Something like Kirby is, you know, a great series, even though those games are generally pretty easy. Wow, that did... I remember this guy does a ton of contact damage. That is ridiculous. I mean, I guess I better count my blessings. This fight is over quickly. Though, ugh, you might not survive to the end. Well, anyway. We got the Gemini laser. My enthusiasm for this game just, like, drains after a while. Not that I've been playing this for long or anything, but... ugh. I don't know. I just don't have the same kind of pep that I do for the other Game Boy games. I also want to point out that right now, oh, by the way, this is a surprisingly good background. Again, it's, you know, it's not in color, so I'm curious to see what this would have looked like on NES, but regardless, this looks better than the just plain, like, dark green, slightly, like, checkerboarded pattern in the original. I don't know, this just looks really solid. I like the jungle aesthetic. Doesn't quite make as much sense when you see these trees after you go down a screen and you still see the same trees, but regardless, even the transitions on the screen are smooth. Not that I expected it not to be, but man, you know what? Like, you have to give this game credit. It visually and even audibly, it's pretty stunning, honestly. I said in the first video that, like, I wanted to see how these games approximate the console counterparts, and yeah, this game, I think, again, I think it exceeds in some aspects. And this level is a great example at something that just seems so solid. By the way, those guys that jump over you, they're not exactly the same enemies. Like, in the console games, they had, like, I don't know, javelins or something? Or, you know, they had, pole vaults? I don't know. Poles that they jumped over with you. And then the poles dropped to the ground. These guys, they're springs. Here I go. They're springs, and then they bounce at you. I kind of like that. It's cute. Now, that seemed like a bit of a cheap shot, considering I couldn't jump over him or anything, because that guy was above me and shot down. But the console games also had that. I'm going to try my best not to criticize the games for making obnoxious level design that even the console games were guilty of. But, I don't know. I still think that there could have been some improvements they made. By the way, this is another different element from Mega Man 4. These spikes that clamp down. They were only in the Cossack stages in Mega Man 4, but it's interesting to see that these elements are being used in more quantity and in different ways in this game. I really appreciate that about this game. Another point I'll give the game. I mean, this is the case with all the Game Boy games, but I really like the way that either new elements were added or some older elements were remixed in some fashion to fit into this game or fit the aesthetic of different levels. Alright. Snake Man can be kind of annoying. Alright, let's... Luckily the charge shots are pretty solid. But you can see how much this game is lagging just because of them. Oof, okay, I could have died there. I think the contact damage would have killed me. See, this game... I think the biggest thing I have with this game, and the reason... like, my explanation for a lot of its faults, I think that the developers, they didn't really accommodate for the Game Boy's smaller screen or different mechanics in this game. Because it seems like the amount of damage that the enemies do, it seems like this is more what they would do on the NES game, but on the NES game you had 28 bars of health, and in this game you have 17, or 19. I mean, I don't know, I just don't think it really balances out. Again, that guy takes 7 hits. There's a lot of other cases where it seems like they didn't really think of just how big the screen size was. And yeah, like... I don't think I can think of a specific example, like that would definitively say, oh yeah, like, if the screen were bigger, this would necessarily make this, like, way more reasonable. But, I don't know, a lot of these bosses, they just seem like the screen's a little too cramped, and like, you're a little too close to the boss at all times. There's a lot of other things, including the fact that you can't fire as fast with a lot of these enemies. At least these guys parachute to the right a little bit first, so you can shoot them there. Also interesting how the those projectors that, you know, show the space thing, they also obscure your life bar and the status bar at the bottom. I'm just gonna ignore the phone there. Let's assume this guy is phoning me. Oh, now he stopped. See? As soon as I killed him, he stopped calling me. I don't even know if you can hear the phone that well. Or at all, really. Oof. Okay. That was close. I mean, I had one life still, but I'd rather not die. I'd rather keep an extra life if I can. So if I mentioned that my headphones are like plugged in, and I need to like hunch over a little bit because the cord that plugs them into the computer is really not that long. All right. Well, it's Wily's castle, so this must be the end of the game, right? Not really. In fact, speaking of brutality, okay, the first part not too bad, right? Yeah, you know what? Just got some platforms. Oh, yeah, these things that were originally in Shadow Man stage, I think they're worse in this game. Something about them seems like sometimes you can jump off them properly and sometimes you can't. Yeah, I'm gonna try to avoid them as much as I can in the second half of the game if they ever appear. Just a heads up. Oh! Oh, okay. So you're just gonna throw a boss in the little boss chamber. Or the chamber before the boss, it should be. But no, you're just gonna cram a boss in here. Now, to be fair, this boss isn't too bad if you can tank some hits, but God, it does a fair bit of damage. Anyway. There's a portal, and, yep, now we got the second half of the game. Kind of a quick Wily level, but I guess I should count my blessings, huh? Well, better start with what I think is the most brutal stage in the whole game, Dive Man stage. Why is it so bad? Especially because the NES counterpart was pretty reasonable. Nothing was too long, nothing was too, like, difficult. They didn't throw too much at you to really make you feel like you were getting tired by the end. Or whatever the case may be. Yeah, this stage just fucking throws spikes all over. All over, dude. Also, I gotta say though, this whale mini boss, I know it's shrunken. It's like shrunken down because there's no way it's anywhere near that big, or anywhere near that small in the console games. But something about that actually looks really good. So again, I'll give this game more points when it shrinks down sprites. Unlike Mega Man 2, which makes them look a little awkward, they look surprisingly solid in this game. Ugh. I gotta say, not only like are there spikes everywhere, but some of the jumps to make around these spikes are also pretty damn strict. Like, yeah, like, you know what? I think that's enough spikes you got there. Something kind of cool you can do is, especially in the water here, you can jump higher. If there's a ladder, you don't actually have to climb the ladder to get to the next, like, the upper part of the screen. You can just jump high enough that you jump through it. Let me show this off with Rush. Let me show this off with Rush. Whee! That's you know, I kind of like that. It probably wasn't intentional or like didn't really add anything, but I like it. I'm glad I got rid of that guy because you know what. Screw those big guys from Mega Man 4. They're almost as annoying as Big Eye. They just don't do as much damage, so I gotta give them that. But actually, I don't know how much damage they do. You may need to check that out. Though Big Eye does like a third of your health, so ugh. These guys also do a surprising amount of damage, even in the original games. Anyway. I'm gonna go back and forth here until Eddie gives me something good. So I'll see you in a minute. Unless he only... Oh, maybe he only gives you that in this game. Like, maybe once the item is decided, even if you don't get it, it's still gonna always be, like that same drop? I don't know. It's kind of interesting, but also kind of sad. Ooh. Ooh. Ow, that's a surprising amount of damage. Like, I think they did about that much in the NES game, but again, that's the NES game. You have 28 bars of health in that one. That makes the hits by these guys a little more reasonable, but in this one, damn, that's a ton. And they're not even, like, the worst offenders here. As far as I know, though. But, like, they're pretty bad, and they're one of the standout examples I can think of. Wow. Come on, dude. Especially because of the lag here. It makes it harder to get the shots right. Ooh. Alright. Well, we reached the end. And we didn't get cheap shot by the spikes. Be really careful in this level. Dive Man is really obnoxious. He's definitely harder than the console games. Yeah. For some reason, I think that possibly due to the low fire rate in this game, and just a couple of just general jank things about this game, makes these missiles even harder to hit. And ugh, I really hate that. Okay. I was getting worried there. Oh man, it's even slow here. And, you know, I gotta say, so far, this is probably the best looking, like, you got a weapon screen. And even the music's pretty damn good. But again, like, I like the good qualities of this game. There are a ton of them. But the bad qualities also just really stack up and make this such a chore to play at times. A lot of the levels, you can also tell, some of them feel a bit longer. This could just be me on this one, but I don't, like, some of the levels are vastly different and different enough to make them stand out from like the originals, but like this one, again, the background's different. I'd say a little more detailed even, though again, you know, different doesn't necessarily mean better or worse. Just, you know, it is its own thing. The original had like hills in the background, but this one just looks like it's inside a skull factory. I don't know, a spine. Oh my god. Yeah, another thing is these guys. They love to cheap shot you. Speaking of cheap shots, let's play Mega Man 3 for Game Boy. Yeah, you see those shield attackers, those guys that go back and forth, that are invincible from the front. They come out with like no warning and get you right away. It's kind of scary, honestly. It's like a very bad jump scare. Thanks for the E-Tank, Eddie, but I don't think I will be using that because I'm above that stuff. No offense to people who use E-Tanks. I just enjoy trying to play this game without increasing like my life bar. Really, that's what it comes down to. It's like your sustainability increases, but is it possible to do it with like no resources and like the base experience? That's why I always try to do these challenges and do them without using E-Tanks. And the answer is, yeah, they all are. Even this game is. Just as brutal as it is. But again, I'd say, while E-Tanks can definitely soften the blow, because a lot of these things do a ton of damage, there are also a ton of instant kill scenarios that this game presents you, and not to mention, you can only hold up to 4 energy tanks at a time. Yeah, these guys come out of nowhere. It's ridiculous to me. I just... As I've already said... like, again, like, a lot of these guys... In the other games, they came out sort of out of nowhere too, but, like... Because of the bigger screen and just the less amount of jank in those games, it was a lot easier to react to them. Therefore, it didn't feel cheap. But in this game, I don't know, it's like a surprise motherfucker moment. Anyway. Let's proceed to the end here. Nearly there. Come on. Ooh, okay. Yeah, that last jump is also kind of obnoxious, because, like, the guy just appears right there. Something I can say about Skullman, I wouldn't call him easier than the console games, but, like, something about him just doesn't feel right. So, you can abuse that in its own way. I don't know. It seems like he always jumps if you just hold B and, like, don't move. And after a little bit. Or in the console games, after like, he releases his Skull Shield, or Skull Barrier, he always waits for you to either press B or go left and right. If you press B, he shoots at you. If you go left or right, he moves, I think. Oh, wait. Oh, no, it's the opposite. It's the opposite, I think. Anyway. Alright, so now we have Drill Man. Oh, hold on. Okay, just a test there. Oh, right away! Oh, thank you, game. Just throw that right in my face. Yeah, if you forget about that, you take a little bit of damage right at the start of the level. Yeah, Drill Man's stage is also pretty obnoxious and full of the shield attackers, so... yeah... I want to point out that, although I said a lot of negatives about Mega Man 2 for Game Boy, I also did say that it's a worthwhile experience. And again, I do stand by that. Like, I do say that it is easier to mercilessly make fun of games that you really like, because at the end of the day, you know that... thanks, game. That, you know that at the end of the day you still like it, and what you're saying is it's usually all in good fun. Though in this game, my critiques, I have had them since my very first playthrough, and they have gone... okay, right, I forgot the Skullman, the Shadow Man platform is Skullman, what the hell? Ever since my first playthrough of this game, I have felt this way. And again, there are just stuff that does not get better with time for me. And this is one of them. I like the double E tank there, but... nah. Alright, we got the rocks. The kind of obnoxious rocks. Okay, let me just avoid the rest. Nope, no rocks. 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 No rocks. I know this one's over a bottomless pit, so it'd be kind of, like, cheap to put rocks there, but the consistency is also all over the place. No rocks up there. Just like in Sparkman's stage with that one thing that was like after the edge, you're expecting something to come out of it. It doesn't. And you get worried. It's like the game's lying to you. Yeah, luckily we only need to experience these platforms for like a second there, and it's over actual ground. Thank you. Game. Okay. Drillman isn't too bad. For one thing, he seems to be less invincible most of the time. During the animation of him diving down into the ground, he's not invincible anymore. That alone makes this fight less obnoxious, but also the attack where he runs towards you and shoots drills. He seems to do it whenever the hell he wants. There's no pattern to it. Thanks, game. And again, this is all stuff I've experienced first time through as well. This isn't just stuff that gets worse over time. This is stuff that doesn't get better over time, I'll admit that. Really now? Really now? Alright, I'll see you back at the very end of the stage. And let me prepare to get cheap-shotted right here again. Oh, thank you. Alright, I'll be back to obnoxious boss number 12. Alright, we're back. I might just speed up that footage just to show what I did throughout that level. Luckily, you know, that went without a hitch. Ugh. Okay, just decide to jump whenever you want as well. You know, just do whatever you want, Drill Man. I don't know. Yeah, like, oh my god. These bosses, man. I'm so tempted to use, like, weaknesses, but I don't want to. It feels like it would be so disappointing to get through these games, like, not using the weaknesses for every other, like, Game Boy game, like, completely being reasonable to do so, but this game just being, like, the one exception. There we go. Alright, the last boss we have is Dustman. He's a little easier, but, well, it's not saying much. That Drillman here is pretty obnoxious. I know I haven't game overed as much as I did on the first game, but honestly, I feel like the first game, a lot of the jumps I screwed up were my fault. And I guess you could say the same here for this game. You could say that for, like, any game, really. But, like, it just seems like they didn't accommodate. They didn't make it a little more reasonable for the player. Oh, thanks. To, like, yeah, I don't know, to reasonably see this coming. You could argue, again, you could argue in any game that dying or losing a life or something, or dying or losing a life, yeah, two very different things in a lot of games. Are two very different things. Between, like... where was I going with this? Anyway, yeah, like, dying or getting severely hit or something. You could argue that in any case it's your fault, but when it seems like the game could have done a better job at, like, preparing you for a lot of this stuff, or punish you severely for something that really should be punishing, like, to that degree, that's when I kind of have an issue. You know, you can argue that, as fair as a game could be, if you die once, you go back to the very beginning of the whole game. Yeah, that is your fault for dying, no matter how brutal the game can be. Unless it's complete RNG, in which case, yeah, you know. But, like, in this case, nothing is. But, I don't know, like your, the midway points and all that stuff, they just... Ow, oh my god. Anyway, alright, I'm not talking about that for now, until we get to later, which I'll have more to complain about. That's what I do in this series, I complain. No, honestly, I mostly do appreciate what these games do. I appreciate the kind of, the tropes that they're able to do on the Game Boy. I'm not saying that these would be, like, impossible to do anywhere else similar to the Game Boy, but, like, I don't know, just... I'm glad they work here, and they really tried to be as faithful as they could, even though a lot of other concepts just, like, don't work that well, or could have been revised in some aspects. But anyway. Yeah, that's why you climb down ladders, and there's a particular moment right at the end of the game that completely says fuck you to that kind of stuff. You know, when you're playing a game, if there's a quicker way to do something, within reason, if you feel like it's not going to cause too many consequences, like, say, dropping down a ladder rather than climbing down it slowly, why would you not just drop down the ladder? Well, this game says, well, what if there's like 20 enemies right there? Trust me, we'll get to that moment. It's really obnoxious. I say 20. It's like literally 2, but they're not placed in a reasonable way, in my opinion. I'm not even gonna chance these jumps. Fuck, like, screw this game's attempt at like trying to challenge me and give me something that this game considers reasonable. Ugh. Ow. Okay, I almost got hit on that one. Luckily I didn't. Okay. Well, you need Rush here. Okay, I just barely got that. Sometimes you can actually cause, like, another... You can, like, make another Rush appear on the spikes and, like, use that to, like, increase your distance even further. But, I didn't really need that, luckily. I just barely got through the end there. Alright, so... You're also going to notice that this stage is still going. Yeah, oh, it's well past the console version. It's decided to keep going just to add on to the goddamn brutality. Ugh. And we're not done yet. We still got instant kill spikes and everything. Oh, thank you! Thank you! Look at that! You have to slide through that, but the second you do, that shield attacker comes and jams you in the face! That's absolutely ridiculous! There's so many more cases like that. Alright, anyway. This man also seems to immediately start, like, sucking you in as soon as he lands sometimes. Which is also kind of obnoxious, but it's really just a time waster more than anything. Because he doesn't suck you in very powerfully. Either in the console games or in this version. But now it's time for the Wily stages. The true Wily stages. This one actually has his face on there. I'm still trying to adjust to the fact that, like, I am stuck very close to the computer. I should have probably just charged this thing beforehand, but that's a terrible idea. Alright. Oh, there he is. Okay, alright. So we're gonna just chase after Wily with no issue. Alright, let's go up. Hold on. We got a... That's Punk right there. That's the next Mega Man killer in this series. And, let me just say, he does a damn good job as well. While Anchor was particularly obnoxious because you fought him after a marathon of a level, Punk's just obnoxious because he does a lot of damage and he doesn't telegraph his attacks properly. you'll see what I mean. Yeah, you see that? He will either go at an altitude that forces you to slide under him, or jump over him. But he just sort of decides last second. There's no animation showing the difference. He just pops up or down. In Mega Man 10, they actually brought back Punk, and luckily they gave him way more of an animation, because this is horrible. Like, this is surprisingly unfair. But luckily, if you get a game over to him, there's no real penalty. You just start this, like, 2-second level over again. What does that really matter, right? So, the best way to deal with this guy is to get up right in the corner and either slide or jump last second. Like, very, very last second. And even sometimes it's a little hard to get that. Also, when he shoots his things at you, his projectiles, which I forget what they're called, so let's see what they are here. He seems to sometimes aim very precisely at you. Other times he just shoots, like, in your direction, but he doesn't shoot, like, he doesn't really home in on you. The Screw Crusher. That's a pretty cool name, not gonna lie. And Wily escapes to his true base of operations, I guess. And here is the very final level of this game. And if you think it's going to be done quickly, then you have another thing coming. This ain't at all like Mega Man 1 for Game Boy, where, you know, like, the last level was not too bad. Even the second last level, the moles were the only thing keeping that level from being long. This one, again, will kick you when you're down, and just be an absolute pain. Make sure to climb down this ladder, because the shield attackers are right there. Climb back up the ladder in case you don't hit them all, like you kill them. Really? That didn't kill. Oh, fuck off. Do you see what I mean by the cheap enemy placement in this game? Oh, and then one of these platforms. Okay, no. I'm avoiding it completely. I don't care how much ammo I end up wasting for Rush here. Rush Jet here. You can't just hold up or down to make it go a little higher or lower like you can in the console games. What you need to do is actually jump and place him and press B like when you're around the mid-jump area. I didn't mean to do that. Perfect. Again, the firing rate can be kind of obnoxious because you might not end up killing these guys before they hurt you. And that could mean you falling off Rush Jet, and, like, I don't know, it just doesn't seem the most fair. Now, you might think it was kind of pointless, because I could have just slid through there to kill that projector thing. I don't care. So, I'm going to take every precaution I can to make this just a little bit easier for myself. One of these things. Okay, I mean, we didn't really see, like, any other instances besides that one case in, like, Snake Man's stage, but, it's cool that they're there, you know? Hey, look, shield attackers. I hope you love these guys, because, oh, they're here to stay. They are here to stay. Probably could have used that a little bit. Alright. That was the climb. I have dubbed it the climb, for it is truly the climb. Okay. That was a little too quick for my liking, but at least I got through that. Hey. I always hate it when they did that, when, like, they introduce those up and downs, the guys that come out of the pits, and then they introduce, like, one pit that's doesn't have them, and you're not sure if they're gone now. Now you gotta pay attention to the floor, because spikes come out of it. I actually don't mind this idea. I'd say it could have been worse. And really, in this game, that's what you have to accept. Some things could have been worse. I know it sounds like I'm shitting on this game, like, mercilessly, but the game's punishing me at times mercilessly. Especially on, like, the first playthroughs I've had. And I understand that your first playthrough is, like, usually one of the most difficult, but I don't know. This game just didn't strike me as having that same kind of quality level design that other Mega Man games did. This one just seemed to cheap shot you whenever it could. Also, when you land on those bombs, I want to point out the platform on the bomb that you're pressing on. It actually goes down slightly, which causes your jump to get eaten if you try to jump too soon. That is the game's fault, I'm not gonna lie, but, like, I can at least forgive it to some degree, because that's how you had to program it. You see Mega Man going like bloop 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 when he hits the bomb, because he's sort of like landing and going in the air for a second, landing, and again, like, you're considered in the air for a second, so you can't jump for like a very split second there. You try to go too soon. I could use some kind of health, so I will take this. Oh, hey, look, it's the final boss. Wow, this, maybe this level wasn't so bad. Maybe it really wasn't too bad. Hey, look, it's a chamber before the final... Oh, wait a second. Yeah, you're fighting another one of these things. And no, there is no permanent checkpoint after you beat this thing. You have to beat this, and the final boss, and get through the rest of the level in one game, I guess. I don't know, game over. For all intents and purposes, that was a mini-boss. And you might think, oh, well, like, there won't be too much left of this level. And I don't think there's a whole lot or anything, but the fact that you do have to fight that boss, which can be obnoxious, I don't know. It just doesn't strike me as the best decision. And once again, a little too brutal. Little bit much of a marathon. I must admit, though, we are approaching the end. I might end up getting a game over, but besides that, oh, okay, I was already at full health. I think we're in the home stretch. The hell's that? I think we're in the home stretch here. Just gotta freeze you. Oh. Honestly, this game felt like it went by a little bit quicker than the last game. Not necessarily because it was easier or anything, but I don't know. I wouldn't say that this game even has less sustenance than the other game. It is solid. It just... There are just some things that really should have been worked out. Other than that, I did have a good time playing this game for the most part. When the stuff is good, it's good. This is the final boss, by the way. Just like in the last game. This is the final boss, by the way. It'll always go left, then right, then left, then right. Now you might think, oh, okay, this is pretty easy. Okay, I'm dodging stuff. That last part could be kind of a cheap shot, but okay. And by the way, this is the What was it called again? I actually forget. Screwdriver, or Screw Bomber? Was it? I don't know. Screw... I'm gonna say it's Screw Bomber and pretend that that's exactly what it is. Yeah, you have to hit Wily like this, because I think this is like the only weapon that even reaches him. Either way, it's the only weapon that does damage. I mean, we got the first half of the Mega Man 3 weapons, which suck anyway. If any of the balls hit the screwdriver, yep, it bounces off them. That can make this fight kind of obnoxious. Not necessarily that hard. It is kind of long because this thing only does 1 damage to him. But, yeah, it can be kind of obnoxious in that way. Okay. Okay, come on. Come on. You can do it, Mega Man. Wow, I did it. Anyway, that's Mega Man 3 for Game Boy. I'm glad I didn't have any major mishaps with this game, because even with a lot of practice, I can still have a miserable time with this. Though luckily I replayed it pretty recently just to make sure I knew what I was doing. I could avoid the bullshit a little more. Watch Wily's castle crumble. Like the smoke that comes out of his saucer, whatever you call it. Ah! Heh, he didn't even stand a chance. So, final thoughts on this game. Yeah, this is a weaker one compared to the last ones. Again, the visuals and the soundtrack are better. I won't lie about that. Like, things look and sound better, and the gameplay seems to have a little less jank to it than the last one, but... hoo boy. This one had absolutely miserable elements in cases. You might not think it was that bad, because I didn't get hit or die to a lot of them, but this was after a lot of practice. I know you could say that with like any game, how like, you know, you avoid the bullshit with more and more practice, but man, this game just feels like the epitome of like trial and error bullshit. That guy's name Alekin? This guy's name is Data? What are these names? Anyway, so yeah, I'd say that unlike 2 for Game Boy, this game is well made from a technical standpoint, but the level design really suffers in a lot of instances. I hope that it was apparent enough why some of the level design was bullshit. Maybe I rushed through it a little much, so you can like, for you to really understand why some of the stuff is as bad as it is. But regardless, I would say if you're a hardcore Mega Man fan and you want to beat all the games, play this one. Yeah, by all means, play this one. But just be warned, the difficulty is probably a little more than you'd be used to. And maybe this is just me. Maybe this actually, in general consensus, is it's not even that difficult of a Mega Man game. But man, my first few times especially were so ridiculous that I can't get that out of my head that this is a really miserable Mega Man game at some points. Brutal, obnoxious, enemy placement, like, that just doesn't fit properly. Anyway, I think I've said my piece. It's still a game that you might want to try, but yeah, like, I'd say just try. Not necessarily try to beat, especially with no energy tanks. I'd say if you remove that stipulation and you have no problem using them, which a lot of people don't anyway, so admittedly, you know, that's a good reason. There are still a lot of instant death bullshit incidents, and you might have to use a lot of energy tanks to survive, and you only have 4. Unlike the last game where you didn't need any, though. Well, what can you do? Anyway, I guess I'll let the credits play out. Luckily, there's not too much of the credits left. This game's credits felt a little shorter than the last game, but anyway. Uh-oh. I heard a beep, and I think that was my headset, but I think that's just telling me that's fully charged. I hope that's what it means. Or that it was, like, out of commission for the last, like, hour. Uh-oh.